So many people out there fail. With
Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana. This is Dr. Frankie tonight. And of course, on to our first guest of the night. An amazing actress, an award-winning actress, one of the top influencers right now, a top brand ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, and a lady who I respected, of course. I'm proud to call her my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, just listening. Are you ready for something there?
Yes.
You ready, yeah?
Yes.
Give me something, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Kate Kamau, aka Kate, actress. How much material
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I'm a lot.
Does it give like, is it like normal time to wear like 10 minutes?
Asha.
Ama like lazima uipangie.
Hii lazima shida ni kwenda kwa choo hiyo tu. Yeah.
But they come to think of it, madam new and madam of a jumpsuit. How do you guys go to the washroom? How do you guys deal with that
That's
whole
why
thing?
we go in pairs to the bathroom.
No, man, you'll never find men going to the washroom in pairs. Ati wewe Richie ni aje. Nasikia kusojo, hebu nisikie. I think ladies are so privileged. You guys can even call each other boom, babe, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Imagine now I'm now calling Richie. Richie babe, ni aje. Unakamjobosa ngapi na saxophone?
But we are okay with that.
Never.
Yeah.
Kate, welcome on the show. You are our first guest ever. Peter McCoffey! Pia tuko na interior design round hii.
Hii ni Wajakoya ama
check relax. Usiseme na nguvu we. Nakada wana watch, nakada.
ni sponsored.
Let me ask, have you ever tried?
No, what is that?
Eh?
No.
Haujawahi? Under my mistake.
But now I know it because of Wajakoya.
Oh really? So hujaipita kwa campaign ya Wajakoya by
creative and relentless and keep.
Ladies and gentlemen, karibuni sana. This is Dr. Frankie tonight. And of course, on to our first guest of the night. An amazing actress, an award-winning actress, one of the top influencers right now, a top brand ambassador, ladies and gentlemen, and a lady who I respected, of course. I'm proud to call her my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, just listening. Are you ready for something there?
Yes.
You ready, yeah?
Yes.
Give me something, yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Kate Kamau, aka Kate, actress. How much material
It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, I'm a lot.
Does it give like, is it like normal time to wear like 10 minutes?
Asha.
Ama like lazima uipangie.
Hii lazima shida ni kwenda kwa choo hiyo tu. Yeah.
But they come to think of it, madam new and madam of a jumpsuit. How do you guys go to the washroom? How do you guys deal with that
That's
whole
why
thing?
we go in pairs to the bathroom.
No, man, you'll never find men going to the washroom in pairs. Ati wewe Richie Richie aje. Nasikia kusojo. Hebu Richie. I think ladies are so privileged. You guys can even call each other boom, babe, sweetheart. Imagine now me I'm now calling Richie. Richie babe, ni aje. Unakamjobosa ngapi na saxophone.
But we are okay with that.
Never.
Yeah.
Kate, welcome on the show. You are our first guest ever. Piga makofi. Ndio nimetu mpia tuko na interior design round hii.
Nini wajakoya ama?
Check relax. Usiseme na nguvu we. Nakada wana watch, nakada.
Ni sponsored.
Let me ask, have you ever tried?
No, what is that? No.
Haujawahi? Under by mistake.
But now I know it because of wajakoya.
See what happens after this. And so we'll be looking at the papers and the stories that we have compiled and come back to expound on them further. Once again, my name is Linda Alela and this is Morning Cafe. The hashtag, as always, is Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela at TV47KE, the Standard newspaper, the Daily Nation, and the People Daily. We start off by looking at what the Standard newspaper details. And now from that moment where we have freshened up and we're looking all rosy after that moment of a gym, it is now serious business. Later on also, we'll be having a conversation as to the question of social life and the relationships that we hold. When you say kwaheri, when you say it's over and done between the two of us, just how far do you go? Do you say, now bring back every other gift that I gave you? Can I go back, or can I proceed to the next destination or to the next person with all my stuff? Do you take back your stuff? That's the conversation that we'll be having later on. But now, allow us to look at the Daily Nation and pomp and color as Kenyans mark International Women's Day, a story captured on page 3. We also had a candid and a very interesting conversation with ladies that are doing well in their respective spaces. That is yesterday morning. You can always grab that, episode on our social media platforms. But aside from it, I think it was a successful day as women continue to appreciate the gains they have made in the numerous and different quarters. Electricity prices jump 10% on costly fuel and weak shilling, a story captured on page 32. Perhaps that is one of the main reasons that would get the Raila Odinga supporters in the streets to speak to the government to allow them, or to explain just how far they intend to take these difficult times for the people of Kenya. This, as the government maintains, that they are on course to undo all the tough times or to undo all the mess that was done by the previous regime. And when we speak about the previous regime, there's another story here that, was one of the key stories that we're discussing yesterday and the day before yesterday, after Dr. Nyakango managed to get to the National Assembly or to the Members of Parliament committee, and equally arguing on how she was coerced or pushed to sign for some 15 billion around 5 days to the general election that she really felt like, wasn't in order. The CS then for Treasury, that is Ukur Yatani, coming in defense of himself and the government. Then he says, I didn't coerce Nyakango to approve 15 billion payments, says Yatani, and former Treasury CS defense approvals he sought from Controller of Budget, even as he faces House summons and Members of Parliament turn on budget boss. A story captured on page 6. He goes ahead to say that her submissions to Parliament depicted my actions as Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury as designed to facilitate theft of public funds, which he says was not of, what it is that, Nyakango says. And therefore, this is a developing story. We seek to understand what will be unraveled out of that. He says that these monies were released according to the legal procedure and for obvious reasons was on the question of security, as well as, on some medical fund of a project. And so we'll be following up on that to find out what plays out. House to set probe on River Yala bodies. That also is a conversation that has been with us for quite a long time. And so the National Assembly is set to open investigations into the bodies that were found in River Yala last year, even as it analyzed, forced disappearance and extrajudicial killings in the country. That will be following to see how different it will all be. Remember, the president saying that, some of these heinous activities really should be brought to the fore so that we understand what could have informed some of these cases and how then the families of these people that lost their lives then would get justice. Another big story, and Raila's D-Day. Government has deployed more security officers to areas around State House, and that Azimio leader Raila Odinga 14-day ultimatum to President President William Ruto to open poll servers and address the high cost of living lapsed yesterday, with the opposition chief threatening mass action and civil disobedience should his demands not be met. The president has called his bluff, saying he won't be intimidated. So who will blink first? A story captured on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation, and how the Right Honorable Raila Odinga then intends to execute the anti-Ruto mass action. First of all, boycott of select products and resistance in Parliament, removal of Ruto's portraits in offices and buildings, stage sit-ins, occupation of public offices, street protests, as well as nationwide rallies. Just what will it be like? We wait to see. The Standard newspaper, oil marketers in court over fuel monopoly deal as well. That's a story that has been captured on page 8, and perhaps a conversation that we've had right here on Morning Cafe alongside those ones that are in this sector, saying that it has not been easy for them to manage business, especially when it comes to this aspect of monopoly. So we get to see the developments of the same as we continue, and we'll be certainly following up to give you the updates as expected. United Nations says M23 ignoring ceasefire. A story on the world stage, and definitely African continent. M23, one of the rebel groups that has made it so difficult for DRC to be stable. We have seen President or former President Uhuru Kenyatta as well going there in a bid to just create that aspect of peace. And so this report by the United Nations then dictate that there's some essence of ignorance of ceasefire that is evidently being seen from the rebel side. And so we'll be following up on that to see just how best they can be tamed for purposes of posterity in this very nation. Tough times as shilling hits record low. A story captured on page 23. Indeed, there is a problem on this one, and most of the Kenyans say that it becomes very difficult for them to, manage even their businesses, let alone manage food on the table. Just what will it take for us to be able to boost our shilling? Again, a question of wait and see. New survey shows marriage driving women to own property. A story captured on page 32. Unfortunately, you speak to most of the men, they will tell you that even when they buy pieces of land or property, they would put them in the name of their children as opposed to their wives. And the wives then realize that perhaps there is need to go out of their way, work hard, and buy their own property. Interesting times right here, contrary to what we have witnessed over time. Away from it, Gachagwa's 1.59 billion bill for office wife. Well, documents from Treasury show that 2 days after Supreme Court upheld the election, with Deputy President asked for money to purchase cars, fuel, and Second Lady's activities. A story captured on page 6, some of Gachagwa's urgent additional funds request, and it will be interesting to watch as they would say that, well, perhaps maybe the budget in these very offices have shot up by, like 2 times more from what was there initially. Cost of living as Azimio planned siege on government offices. We'll be following up to see on what plays out on that. No equality to talk about on women's fate. A story captured on page 12 and 13. These celebrations that were conducted yesterday allow us to look at what the People Daily as well dictates. What does the People Daily have this morning? Front page of the People Daily. Shortly, let's have it on the screen. Mr. Director, carry you cross. Yatani tells Nyakango as he says that, well, the activities that were conducted then were according to, the legal processes. And he goes ahead to say, why would the controller of budget then proceed to sign to release these funds if in her own intuition or in her own mind she would have considered this illegal then? Former CS fights Nyakango's accusation that he forced or coerced her to sign off billions, saying Even Ruto and Gachagua used the same payment system to spend 127 billion, a story captured on page 4, and a developing story for that matter. We'll be getting updates on the same as we continue. Anxiety over Raila rallies, police mount security checks on roads to State House lodges as deadline by the Azimio leader of IEBC hiring expires. Away from its high cost, yes, independent power farms in spotlight, as well as to how the cost of power has shot up. Kabambe is still king of handsets market. That's a story also that is captured on page 16, an interesting one that is in the business sector. Allow us to now shelve the papers and look at the stories that have been prepared by my team. And UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala has urged the anti-corruption agencies to investigate former President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leaders Raila Odinga for alleged misuse of public funds shortly before the 2022 general election. Additionally, former Treasury CS Ukur Yatani has reportedly threatened to take legal action against Controller of Budget Margaret Nyakango, who accused him of pressuring her to irregularly approve an expenditure of 15 billion shillings, as Micah Gongo reports.
Tonight, former Treasury CS Ukur Yatani is fighting back over claims of irregular approval of over 15 billion shillings to allies of the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, just days before Kenyans went to the polls. On Tuesday, Controller of Budget Margaret Nyakango claimed that the former holder of public purse said that she was coerced to release over 15 billion shillings in funding for 2 state departments in violation of the Constitution. The billions, according to Nyakango, were meant to cater for the exit of Helios investment in Telecom Kenya. 9.2 billion shillings, which was approved by the National Treasury under Article 223 to the State Department for Infrastructure. But in a rejoinder, Yatani accused Nyakango of acting in bad faith, adding that the demand for the approval of the monies were above board, since it was approved by Parliament. In a 4-page letter, Yatani said it would be ironical to claim that the funds were misappropriated while some of the projects that were funded by the money in questions, like the KDF hospital, was launched by the president recently. Yatani further says he also received a similar request from the office of the deputy president of 1.5 billion shillings. Gashagua's request, according to Yatani's, was made immediately after the 2022 general election for approval and disbursement of 1.59 billion shillings for his office use. The request included 300 million shillings for cars and 330 million shillings for hospitality, and a request that he did not grant in full but considered an amount of 500 million shillings due to the financial concerns they had at that time. Nyakango's allegations have now become the latest political dog whistle, with the UDA party demanding her ouster for agreeing to be influenced by external forces. Led by UDA Secretary General Cleophas Malala, the leaders say the funds in question were used to fund the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party's presidential campaigns.
The prosecutory organs in this country should take over the matter, investigate, and tell Kenyans what the truth is about the matter. We cannot prosecute the matter in Parliament alone. We have prosecutory organs, we have the DCI.
Let each person learn to carry their own cross. And we are going to start a process of removing Nyakango from office through legal means and legal channels, and that is the National Assembly. We've got to have people who are straight to run offices. According to Malala, the ODM leader and his allies should take responsibility for the stolen public funds. Yatani has now threatened to sue the Controller of Budget, saying the allegations are defamatory. Mike Kagwongo, TV 47, Nairobi.
Now, Elgeyo Marakwet and West Pokot legislatures, led by Marakwet East Member of Parliament Kangugu Bowen, want the ongoing insecurity in Kerio Valley militarized in order to deal with the bandits. Hundreds of civilians have lost their lives to the unending banditry in the region.
A day after 2 medical officers were shot dead by bandits in Kerio Valley despite the ongoing Kenya Defence Forces-backed security operation in the area, legislators drawn from Elgeyo Marakwet and West Pokot counties now want military to officially take over the operation to deal with bandits. Their statement comes just days after bandits staged a daytime retaliatory attack in the volatile Terition village in Mochogoi Ward, Baringo South on Sunday.
It is now the time to deploy the military to take lead in that operation going on in North Rift.
This even as the operation to disarm warring parties in the troubled Rift Valley region has been off to a slow start even after the 3-day amnesty period for people to hand in illegal weapons resulted in the handover of 3 guns. Most of the fighting has been between communities over grazing land and livestock, made worse by the ongoing diverse drought.
We are asking that permanent military bases be established along those areas so that no community will have any reason whatsoever to have arms in the pretext of protecting themselves from external aggression.
Last month, Kenya Defence Forces was deployed to conduct a joint security operation with the police in all banditry-prone areas to combat lawlessness, which has caused tensions among communities.
They are behaving that this is a banana republic. It is not. They should be arrested and the full force of the law. And we have agreed if there are any leaders that either way or in another way that are involved, the rule of law should be followed. There is no one that is above the law in this republic, and therefore we appeal to the president. It is no longer tenable. Yourself as the commander-in-chief, kindly take charge and take over. Let sanity be returned to those areas.
The most affected areas being Turkana, West Pokot, Elgeyo Marakwet, Baringo, Laikipia and Samburu counties. Flora Limuki, TV47.
Now, state departments for correctional services is set to launch a campaign dubbed One Prisoner, One Bed, One Mattress to address the deplorable state in Kenyan prisons. Speaking during the International Women's Day celebration in Langata Women's Prison, Principal Secretary, State Department for Correctional Services, Mary Muthoni, said the department is committed to enhancing the living conditions of inmates as per the set standards.
Life in prisons has been known to shatter hopes, dreams and dignity. On this International Women's Day, however, inmates at the Langata Women's Prison have a reason to smile as the State Department for Correctional Services announced its plans to enhance the living conditions of inmates across the country.
We are about to launch a very ambitious program across the country. One prisoner, one bed, one mattress. Because we don't want people sleeping on the floor anymore in this country. If you want to change the world, go back and make your bed.
Speaking during the International Women's Day celebration, Principal Secretary, State Department for Correctional Services, Mary Muthoni, issued an appeal to support the campaign, saying so far 1,000 inmates out of the total 60,000 have benefited. First Lady Rachel Ruto also launched a prisons program dubbed Karakana to equip women inmates with various skills, including cross-stitching.
We want to expand Karakana offering to include other forms of creative art like crochet, bead making, basketry, needlework, knitting, and more.
The market out there does not care whether the product comes from prison or comes from a woman. They will expect quality. That is why Karakana is here. We are going to produce quality.
But even as women inmates celebrate the small milestones, women from pastoralist communities have nothing to smile about, owing to the rampant insecurity in the region that has left most of them widowed.
Imekuwa ni kilio asubuhi na mchana. Widows wanazidi kujaa. Watoto yatima tunazidi kubaki nao. Na imefika mahali kama wafugaji hatuwezi kukuja kuangalia hii maneno. Sisi tutaisha.
The pastoralist women noted that they should be involved in efforts geared towards restoration of peace.
As the world marks International Women's Day, a call has been made to champion the advancement of transformative technology and digital education to avert the digital gender gap on social and economic inequalities. Andrin Kilemi, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, Kenya Kwanza and Azimio coalitions have locked horns ahead of Azimio's much-anticipated announcement on whether they will stage mass action following the expiry of the 14-day ultimatum yesterday at midnight. Kenya Kwanza claims Odinga has been sending emissaries to President William Ruto as late as last night to secure what the ruling party says, in other words, is a handshake. And of course, as our senior political reporter Apollo Kamau reports, the government has scaled up security alertness in key state installations, starting with the State House.
When and whether the Azimio coalition will march to State House starting Thursday to petition President William Ruto, having failed to honor the opposition's demands in their 14-day ultimatum, which lapses Wednesday midnight, remains the key question. The opposition outfit and the ruling UDA party traded barbs on Wednesday after claims of last-minute night meetings emerged with the hope of reaching a truce.
Tungependa pia kusema kwamba hii sarakasi yote ambayo inafanywa na watu wa Azimio ni kwamba wanatafuta handshake. Up to yesterday evening, they were sending people to see if they can have a talk with our president.
That because I don't think any one of us here is aware of what you are discussing. We will be speaking to the country tomorrow as the Azimio coalition upon expiry of the deadline to set out the next course of action.
The claims emerged amid reports that the government side had tried reaching out to former President Uhuru Kenyatta to stop the mass action, which the government deems disruptive to economically burdened Kenyans.
We will take it ourselves to government offices if that can help us get coherent and believable answers on the matter of the economy, which we can then share with the citizens of Kenya.
The government is said to be leaving nothing to chance and has scaled up security in key state installations, among them State House and state lodges, given Azimio's call to their supporters to march to the State House. Odinga is expected to address his supporters on the way forward on Thursday, despite the opposition remaining tight-lipped on the way forward, coming in the backdrop of appeals opposing the demos. Odinga's Thursday political direction statement will also set the stage on who blinks first between him and a government that has already adopted a hardline stance on the possibility of dialogue and a handshake. Apollo Kamau, TV47.
All right, and from that very story that forms the basis of our conversation this morning, we want to take a quick short break. But before we do that, allow me to acknowledge the presence of two gentlemen that will help us decipher on these key stories. And shortly, we'll also have one of them join us before we kickstart the entire conversation. Stan Alusiola, civil rights activist, is here with us. Thank you so much, Stan, for creating time, as well as Dan Orogo. Daniel Orogo is part and parcel of the Democracy Moves Africa. He'll be telling us what they do some more, so that we also get to understand whether this would be an alternative to the Azimio One Kenya Alliance that is a staging.
It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure,
yeah,
to have you
here this morning.
That's action. So yes, allow us to take a quick short break, gentlemen, and then we'll be coming back to that very important conversation. So don't you go anywhere. You know, Dan.
Yes.
You are watching TV47, the home of untold stories.
Usiyakubalie maumivu ya misuli kukatiza ratiba yako. Kaluma Pain Balm ni dawa ya kusugua iliyotengenezwa kutoka kwa miche maalum ili kutuliza maumivu ya misuli. Kaluma Pain Balm. Shhh. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Yo, mambo vipi? Huyu ni Orute Boniface kutoka Bungoma Town, muuzaji wa Mkombera. Karibu Radio 47 Bungoma.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
You are watching TV47, the home of untold stories.
Okay, it's at this very point that we get to the conversation. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you this morning. And first of all, I think only fair that we understand some more on what democracy moves or movement for Africa does.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I think it's a pleasure, first of all. We should be fair, Stano, to wish the Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you.
It's not late.
But it is late. It is late because you have my number.
Well, we didn't have the opportunity to do that.
You have my number.
And we have agreed with Stano that we're going to do it.
Thank you, though. I will not complain.
Because we didn't have the opportunity yesterday to do that.
I appreciate.
Democracy moves. Africa is rebranding from the Mother Democracy Moves, which is a global movement of political activists, political leaders, and pro-democracy movements of young people in civil society who are coming together to try to champion for civic participation amongst the youth and the special interest groups globally, who traditionally have been excluded in participating in the mainstream political governance issues in the globe. It's also important to know that the movement has taken shape in trying to, we are the ones who actually fronted and championed for young people who are running for different political positions in Nigeria in the last election. And of course outline those who are also be moving towards championing for that space in other African countries that are holding elections. In Gabon, in South Sudan, and those who will be running for elections. But in Kenya here, it's important to know that we're also into the space of civic and political participation post-electoral period. Also trying to understand, hold the government to account on the delivery of promises that were made before the elections, but equally creating spaces for young people in public service. So I think it's important, and I thank you for giving me the space to clarify that.
Yeah.
So I stand to coordinate the movement in the African region, but as well as trying to build up the movement in East Africa and in Kenya as well.
I've been following up on some of your activities just to appreciate that, when we see these activities ongoing, then we are certain that we have a future. They keep saying that, it's the youth who are leaders of tomorrow. But I think we're leaders of today, and taking up that challenge, understanding and learning from the oldest and learning from the best.
And that for sure is important also to allow. And it's a pleasure to be with Stano. To say that we've been through the struggle for a long time.
Yeah.
This is one thing people do not know. Stanislas and I, championed also for the inclusion of youth, especially in the informal settlement.
Yeah.
Post-electoral period of 2007, post-election violence, way back.
Wow.
From 2013, we've been together in a movement, championed by USAID, to try to dialogue, create a space for dialogue for young people in the 9 informal settlements of Nairobi. And it's good that course we've been sustaining, and from 2016, we are meeting here today.
Oh, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Thanks to me. Thanks to us. It's 2016. That's like how many years down? 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. That's like
around 6 or 7 years.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, the station is uniting us again.
That's good. We're happy to hear that. And Stan is equally in his own space doing so much. The other time I was talking to him and he was trying to, tell me some of the things that are being done away from that, push for a constitutional change, which seems to be a little bit silent, but they will tell you they're on course to collecting the signatures. Equally doing so well in terms of making sure that we have a tomorrow in forms of leadership. Most of the leaders that we have today will tell you that, we're in the struggle together. We were in Tanzania, we were in Uganda. We're just like figuring out how we're going to have a nation. So clearly, in as much as we have difficulties and fears, we can be sure that we have a nation stand?
Yes. We have Kenya as our nation. It is our motherland. But before we delve into the matter of the day, I think I also have to congratulate TV47 for reuniting us.
Yeah.
Even a little of history where we have come from.
Yes.
And Dan was younger than this.
Yes.
You know? He was little experienced.
I'm almost asking him, how old are you, Dan?
He was little experienced, but he's a man of gusto.
Yeah.
He understands what he's running for. He understands where he's going, and I must congratulate him for being appointed to be a coordinator.
Thank you.
The whole of Africa with 54 or 55 countries.
Yes.
Having one person from Kenya to represent the continent is what something to talk about.
Yeah.
There is a lot that is going on, and I think first is to wish all women of this great nation, Kenya, and the whole world, Happy International Women's Day.
Thank you.
And it happens to come a day after my birthday.
Oh,
so you must
so we
know
should
that.
say happy birthday as well. Happy belated.
My birthday was on 7th.
Yes,
and
happy
the
belated.
International Women's Day
Okay.
comes a day later. So I think it's a wonderful moment for this country.
Yeah.
And moving forward, we have to embrace Kenya as our motherland. In everything that we do, let us recognize that we have nowhere to go, but stay in this country and make it work for Kenya.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I think it's also important that in the backdrop of the International Women's Day, pardon me if we are going to discuss it, that we've lost an icon, the first woman, political leader, a patriot in this country, the first member of parliament in Kenya and in East Africa, Madam Grace Onyango, who we lost yesterday. It is also important that her wish was to see women occupying the spaces of leadership in the struggle for leadership. And all we can say right now is that may her soul rest in peace, and she will live to be remembered. Her legacy pre and after independence, has spurred so many women to champion for their space in political leadership. And I think we also need to mention that this morning as well.
I listened to her, being interviewed at some point in time, and the struggles were not anywhere close to what the struggles we have today. Hers were tough, hers were difficult, but, she soldiered on. So clearly, it tells us that it's not going to be easy. But, there's always that reason why we have to take it to the next level and to the next level. And so I agree. We as TV47 would as well join, to condole with the family of the late Onyango. And of course, not forgetting, I can't remember the name of this gentleman who gave us some of these beautiful songs and composed some of these beautiful songs that passed on the other day. Can't remember the name, but I'll find it. He also passed on, and unfortunately, we are here. The struggle is how can we have the government come in to contribute and all that. I think it speaks volumes to what really needs to be done in us appreciating and acknowledging the contribution of the numerous faces that we've heard in the process of liberation, in the process of the quest of democracy, and so much more. So may their souls rest in eternal peace. And gentlemen, I want us to start off the conversation from this very text that, and perhaps realities that we have. First of all, it is, how many years to the handshake? Is it true what Baba is
how many years to the handshake?
It's their handshake anniversary today, just in case the much publicized. I remember I used to say it every day, the much publicized March 9 handshake, And here we are 5 years down. It has been blamed for the numerous, downfalls of the country of the previous regime. Here we are today. It is a time when we're equally waiting to see whether the Right Honorable Raila Odinga is going to call his supporters to go to the streets for mass action. What do you make of that?
Yeah, thank you very much, Linda, for this conversation. It is indeed timely. First of all, before we go to talking about what Baba is likely to call people to the streets to demonstrate, let us look at where the country is coming from, where it is now.
Yeah.
Because we have a new government in place. And I think the present president has committed a miscalculation of Napoleonic magnitude. He has displaced himself from what the people elected him to do. people are feeling like we have a government of vengeance, a government that has engulfed into looking back instead of looking forward. Because today, you look at the issues that are being brought up by the Azimio coalition. They are talking about the economy. They are talking about the cost of life, the cost of living. Is the government of the day up to the task? Is what was promised by the government being done by the government? What we see every day are political statements. And I think the political statements are not coming from the lower cadre of politicians. The political statements are coming from the top echelon of power, from the president himself to the deputy president. Why would we be going that way? And I think if there was a president who should have carried vengeance in this nation, he should have been Mwai Kibaki. Because he took over a country that had been led for 24 years under autocratic rule. But what did Kibaki do? He actually swept the room, made it clean, and began his job. He never attributed any failure of what he was doing to the previous government. He forgot about Moi and his regime. What Kibaki did, and I think you remember very well, that Kenyans were the most optimistic people in the world. Kenyan went to the level of even arresting policemen for corruption corruption issues. Are we doing it today? Today, as I was coming here, I came through, I used an Uber, and I asked the driver a simple question: where are we going as a government? He said, personally, and this is an Uber driver who is a busy person, he says, the government should pray that Raila Odinga does not ask people to go on the streets.
Do you think people would?
They're already doing it. People are already doing it.
To that magnitude to say...
Let me remind you, Linda.
Yeah?
You saw thousands of people on the streets the other day.
Yes.
Traders were on the streets.
Yes.
And they were protesting against the Chinese. The China Square.
Yes.
Do you know what happened?
Yes.
In my own opinion, the government did free marketing for China Square. Those people who did not know that China Square was existing now are actually going to China Square.
Was it by design? Was it by design?
I think it was by design. The reason why I'm saying this, now everybody wants to go to China Square. And one other thing they have done is they have allowed China Square to come into operation and at a larger level. So who is more disgruntled? The trader. The traders have not been in any way on the streets demonstrating. But now look at this. They were chased out of the streets. Some guy says that with 2 or 3 tear gas, they left the street. But now the hardcore demonstrators that will be called into action by Baba himself, led by Baba himself, and you have seen the likes of Secretary General Edwin Sifuna and other. I also saw women talking taking very hard stances that look, Baba give us the direction and we are going to follow it. I'm just echoing the words of the Uber driver. People have a reason to go to the street. People are hungry. There is no food. And if the food is available, it is very expensive. People have no money to take children to school. People have no jobs. You understand? And instead of the president coming up with an economic recovery task force, what did he do first? He formed the police task force. Are Kenyans do we have a security problem with the police today? We don't. Kenyans have an issue with the cost of living. The president must first form an economic recovery task force to look at the issues bedeviling this country.
Stan, let me take it away from you and to Dan. Dan, before I loop you in, allow us to read this statement, and before we even get to hear your view on what it is, you think about the 5-year, 5-year anniversary. We'll be going back, trying to again check what is happening behind us, like the government is, as many would say. First of all, for the records, Enoch Ondego is the composer of the famous wimbo Historia and Kenya Yetu, who passed on. That's whom I was referring to. Let's read this statement by Tanzania's president. And netizens are speculating that President Samia Suluhu is talking about Kenya. Yeah? So this is what they say, or she says, kiuchumi, Tanzania tuko vizuri kuliko nchi yoyote ile ndani ya Afrika Mashariki. Msidanganywe. Sisi tuna akiba ya miezi 4. Nenda kwa majirani ya wiki moja mbele hawana. Unaona? So nenda kwa majirani ya wiki moja mbele hawana. Contrary to the hata akiba, anything, whatever it is. Sisi tuna, she goes ahead to say this. Tunapata maombi ya kuwaekea dhamana ili mafuta yaendelee kupelekwa kwao. Yeah. Tanzania is doing well economically compared to any other country in East Africa. We have money that can sustain us for up to 4 months. Unlike our neighbors whose coffers are empty, they cannot sustain themselves for a week. They appeal to us to be their guarantors so that their fuel supply is not cut short. You think when Baba says to the streets, Kenyans will come out in large numbers?
Well, let me echo what my colleague Stanislas really just talked about a while ago. Linda, I think so many different platforms we took a dive into the handshake, and you've mentioned that is years after the handshake, the surprise handshake that was there. But again, I agree. Could we look into the intrigues of what really happened before that handshake? Does it mirror what we are seeing right now? And do you understand that as revelations of the famous handshake that we saw in 2018, there were issues that are reminiscent of what we are seeing right now. That it was a post-election that was contested. It was a post-election that opposition threatened to go to the streets. It was an election where the opposition had actually given an ultimatum, calling the minimum that they wanted by that time.
Yeah.
It was that time when we saw the opposition singling out some companies who were affiliated to the government by that time, that were seen as were supporting the government of the day, that was seen not recognizable by the government of NASA in 2017. And as such, the opposition called for mass protest, boycotts of certain goods and not buying from certain companies. The opposition boycott and stage-managed protest at the Electoral Commission, at the Electoral Management Body of Kenya. In this case is IEBC. Does those bells really sound familiar to what we are seeing right now, even this morning, with the with the 14 days ultimatum that had been given by the opposition government? Yes, they are similar, and I agree with Stanislas again, that just like the government by that time was making blunders and playing into the hands of the opposition, it's still doing the same right now that we're seeing. And somebody, and I think it's Mutai Ngunyi that advised President Ruto not to be playing into the hands of the opposition.
But how best can they handle this?
The government has got a machinery. The government by itself, and I kept saying that even on the panel that we were here the other day. You see, President must be seen as the President of the Republic of Kenya, as a uniting figure. If by any chance you are having an opposition that we are seeing is equal force to Raila, then you need to have a government that is able to reconcile the nation. You must be seen as a government that is able to create a space to express a divergent opinion and taking to those considerations so that you improve the state of governance in this country. And you mentioned it in the last interview, that the government we have is the one that fears. When the opposition coughs, the government is up in arms in fear, and putting into measures, that is causing tension, that is causing similarities, that we are having a government that is hostile, to divergent view. First, let me say that as we speak, Raila is equally on advantage. One, because as Stanislas mentioned, the country, its economic is in downturn. Finally, even our neighbors, and I think let us confirm that Madam and President Samia Suluhu could be speaking about Kenya. And I will tell you this, in the last session we talked about liquefied petroleum gas coming from Tanzania. the LPG gas that we are seeing, that the government has allowed the Taifa gas, which is LPG, that is a gas that is coming from Tanzania. We actually saw in the last government when the petroleum line was diverted, that was supposed to be coming to Kenya.
Diverted to...
Not diverted to Tanzania.
Uganda, Tanzania now from us.
Now from us.
Yeah.
We could be speaking about a nation that now is relying on our neighbors to sustain us economically. As to the realities and as the correctness of the statement from the President, Samia Suluhu, that is another question. Because one, we all know that Kenya still plays, East African, economic tiger in East Africa, and that is non-contested. But again, from her statement, there is a semblance that we are slowly gravitating to economically rely on our neighbors for the sustenance and the supply of energy, even for the stability politically within, because we are looking up to Tanzania again, for our neighbors, for diplomatic, sustainability. So I think these are all pointing towards a direction where the country is actually losing its, political stand, and now beginning to play into the, our neighbors to sustain us, our fame into the League of Nations East African communities. So I think the bluff is pointing towards a direction that could be Kenya as well. That is not.
But even still, and perhaps we haven't looked at this. How can you brag about being able to sustain yourself for 4 months? Where is Africa headed? Where is East Africa headed, to be honest? The likes of China, the likes of India, the superpowers will tell you they plan for like 400 years, 100 years to come. And we are here celebrating about being stable, or the capability of being stable for 4 months, and laughing at those ones that are not able to sustain themselves for a week. Stan?
Let me ask you, Linda.
Yeah.
Do you think we are headed to the right direction?
As who? As the country, or as East Africa, or
that
what?
question, let me answer it. Whatever that happens in your house today, your neighbors will know.
Yes.
However much you will hide it.
Yes.
The President of the Republic of Tanzania knows what's happening in Kenya.
Yeah.
How does she know what's happening in Kenya? Because she has an ambassador here. She has people working across the border. So she understands whether Kenyans are hungry, whether Kenyans are optimistic, or Kenyans are disillusioned. So that statement done is not a matter of who is being spoken about. We are in the crosshairs of Tanzania. Because for a long time, Kenya has been the tower in East Africa. And because we have become a politicking nation, we have a regime in power that is politicking each and every day. That is why we don't have food for the next 1 week. We are relying on donors. We are relying on loans. There is nothing about manufacturing of goods and everything. How do you expect us to move a step towards economic emancipation of...
And I will ask this question again. Much as Samia Suluhu could be speaking about us or any other East African country, and she says she's economically they are way ahead than any other. So obviously that is now in relation to Kenya because we were ahead at some point in time, and Dan says we still maintain that. But then, well, that is subject to confirmation. How can she even be happy about being stable for 4 months?
Yeah, first of all, I think she's overexcited of being the first woman president in East and Central Africa. And we have to give her the accolades.
Oh, yes.
Because since she took power, Tanzania is peaceful. Tanzania is stable.
Yeah.
And the kind of politics you used to see between these opposition leader, Tundu Lissu and Magufuli, is not there.
Yeah.
So when a country is peaceful, they have an opportunity to look at the issues that are bedeviling the nation. But if a country is at a crossroads in terms of political attacks across the opposition and government, the government will not have an opportunity to look at its agenda. And I agree with Dan. The government of the day is playing into the gallery of the opposition. Reason, when Raila coughs, Gachagua replies. When, like right now, the president has appointed Cleophas Malala as the SG. When Malala will cough, Edwin Sifuna will reply.
Okay.
Why did I say that the president has miscalculated his move? First of all, instead of looking at the economy, the cost of living of this country, he is now looking at merging parties within the Kenya Kwanza coalition. You know, they are not even thinking about the opposition already.
Yeah.
They are now fighting within themselves. So we have a government that will be fighting within itself, so that they are already looking at 2027, 4 or 5, 6 months into power.
Yeah.
Is this a government that is going to take Kenyans to the next level? The president must sit down. Because let me tell you, the topic today today here is about the political ultimatum. Raila is very dangerous if you play into his gallery. And the president is doing that each and every day.
Yeah.
For example, instead of apportioning money towards industrialization or manufacturing or any other, or even university, they are portioning money for their offices. Can you imagine? I read something, I don't know whether it is true or not, that the minister in charge of trade says that he has 1,200 employees in his office who he doesn't need, but they wake up every morning, come to work. If he doesn't need 1,200 employees in his office, what are they coming to do? In the same breath, then we are seeing the deputy president's office as shown here on
what it is being
the standard.
Yeah.
Gachagwa's 1.5 billion bill for office wife.
Right.
Where are we going as a nation? We are getting loans from the outside world, but the money is being taken into administration. Are we having a problem with the administration of this country? No, we don't have a problem with the administration. We have a problem with the cost of living. If the president wants the opposition to be rendered useless in this country today, let him ensure that the cost of living goes down, and Kenyans will listen to him.
On the contrary, the government or the president wants a vibrant opposition.
He wants a vibrant. Okay, fine. Look at this done. Yeah. He wants a vibrant opposition. Yeah. But in the same breath, for the first time, Linda, the president has ordered security forces to guard the state lodge in Kisumu.
And in Nairobi.
The state house in Nairobi is understood.
Okay.
But the president has ordered security officers to guard a state lodge in Kisumu.
Kisumu is no.
Can you imagine? This is the kind of fear.
Which is okay. Which is okay to guard any state lodges and
reinforcement.
Because I think it's Kisumu, you know, like leaders say, it's strategically placed for anarchy on that area, especially how they express their dissatisfaction, if they are called upon to do so. So I think the security advisors of the president could have seen an opportunity to advise that Kisumu, maybe there is a gap that needs to be reinforced. But that being said, Linda, in the last session, we discussed about, and Stanas alluded to that as well, the missed opportunities by this government, the deviation away from the promises that were made.
Yeah.
The unjustification as to why the 100 days cannot be explained, why they were missed promises that were held. The country, as we always say, that the state of the nation is that weak, because then in the agreement that the nation, the government has not fulfilled the agenda that it promises. So we are seeing jobs, young people that rose up in arms and voted this government. The government that was driven on the agenda of the hustler, that played into the hands of young people. The young people are disenchanted, they're disenchanted. And let me say this, that even the protest by Nyamakima and Kamkunji traders and, those who, took an industrial action to protest the Chinese square. You asked about this before, and let me say that this was a state sanctioned, because you could say that within the day that the minister issues a statement, That has been postponed because the demonstration was supposed to take place that day. It was postponed like I think at least 3 times for it to happen. Yes. Look at how the demonstration was choreographed. I mean, the minister make a statement, and the statement resonates with the traders, and he is very specific on who these traders were. And you see sometimes...
Interestingly, the traders are very specific on who they want to address them.
Exactly, and which office particularly.
Which office particularly.
You know, it could be very glad that the traders would protest and go to the ministry that is in charge of trade.
Yes.
But they went straight
to the office
of the deputy president.
Even when they were sending the press, invite, and they were telling us that they are going to have demonstrations, they were very particular.
Very particular.
We want the deputy president
to address this. And then I said that also in the last panel, that remember this ultimatum is someone pulling the strings. And painstakingly, Stano, I think it's important for us to be on record on the places we are, and also in a different platform. I mentioned this, Linda. When fishmongers from Lake Victoria, protested that, quote in quotes, plastic fish and fingerlings were being imported from China. And they were being introduced into Lake Victoria, and they were killing ecosystem in Lake Victoria. Nobody went ahead so far to demonstrate that. And in fact, the government of the day responded by saying that we are in a free market economy. And in our capitalistic nature, everyone is free to come and do businesses. Even as we speak, traders and fishmongers in Lake Victoria are still reeling from the effects. Even I saw the pictures, I think, in one of the dailies, that there are some strange Nile perch in Lake Victoria that has been killing that ecosystem. And if you trace that, it could be what they complained about, but nobody took that advantage to expedite that, including the government of the day. Mumia's sugar industry has been so many years. The company has been given relief, but the company has been killed by the so-called middlemen and middlewomen who are in that trade. Again, we have not seen people, expediting that to the far right and putting it to the higher offices, including the office of the deputy president of the day. In Siaya, the sugar industry are being transported to Cabras. The sugar industry in Siaya is dead. And you can see how, sugar is being transported in loads of trucks to certain areas in this company. Pineapples taken from Nyanza and Western to Thika. Nobody has armed. But you are telling me again that just one mention of Chinese square and insinuation, that some prices of certain goods in some areas affecting people in Kamkunji, affecting people anywhere. And I'm not saying this simply because certain areas are mentioned, but I'm saying, could we be even fair? That the people are trading, the people, young women and women in the urban slums who are complaining about unfair trade practices and trade policies. Nobody. But we are seeing these in certain quarters being expedited to our office. Are we having a country of an animal farm where other trading industry
let me
more equal than others? No, let's take a short break.
This is why we say we could be, and we are on record.
Man,
fair.
You just hit it right.
After this break,
you just hit it right.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Hey! Kaluma King Herbal Lozenges zinazo nguvu maradufu kutuliza kikohozi, vidonda vya koo na mafua. Kaluma King ni shwari.
Tika mama huyo muharifu kaiba kuku zangu, vifaranga wangu na mayai zote pia kabeba. Haya, tika mama huyo.
Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
Authentic, natural, planned. transforming. Endless benefits. Slaty, purely Kenyan. Buy now on Jumia or Amazon.
Je, maumivu ya kichwa na kukosesha amani? Kaluma Strong hutuliza maumivu ya kichwa, maumivu ya mwili na hata huondoa joto jingi mwilini. Kaluma Strong ina aspirin kama kiungo. Maumivu yakizidi, muone daktari.
You are watching TV47, the home of untold stories.
Studio Stana Luciola as well as Dan Orogo as we look at some of these stories. I am surprised that one of us is not here just yet. I hope all is well with him. Vayo should be able to tell us why. This one, you know, is part and parcel of the government. Would have been here to speak for the government, but all the same, we keep the ball rolling. So here we are. Why do you argue that Dan has said it as it is? Because, well, in as much as we all want to look at things, you know, the way we'd want to look at them, reality is that we are a country that, you know, is having others being favored based on the regions they come from, based on the tribes they hail from. And perhaps that's the reason why we say even in Kisumu, then there has to be extra guard because this is a stronghold of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. But why would you argue that Dan has said it as it should be?
You know, one funny thing, I've not been with Dan for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even have his number because I lost a phone that I was using by that time.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy has hit points correctly. And I don't even have anything to add. The reason why I side with him, not because I'm against government. I'm not against government. I'm here to talk about issues as they are, to stand for the rights of the people. Why am I saying it's right? The other day, the governor of Nairobi, Johnson Sakaja, tweeted and said, look, Mr. Deputy President, do not just nurture youth from the central. You are a deputy president and you have to nurture youth across the country. And I've been accused of being overboard in my statement. But I must say, and this is my own personal opinion, that the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, is still suffering from colonial hangover. He feels like if you are in power, you have to empower people from your region. He must step out of that.
Is that not the politics we've been playing?
Yes, that is the nature of politics. But as a leader, you must have your own kind of political dispensation. How you run the country doesn't have to be the way other people have been running the country. On the issues of economic blocks, the same president, deputy president, the other day issued an ultimatum and said, we are going to allow, we are going to allow other people to do milk and gas. You understand?
Yeah.
Dan has alluded to the fact that we are dying as a nation in terms of manufacture of products. Why are we dying as a nation? Because in the sugar sector, we have declassified sugar as a food item, and we have termed it a commercial item. And that is why you find it is very easy for our supermarkets to come up with their own brands of sugar, irrespective of the source where this sugar is coming from. And this is happening in the presence of our own associations or departments, such as the Agriculture and Food Authority, which will be there to safeguard the farmer. We have the Kenya Bureau of Standards, which actually has to look at metrology, the standard and quantity and quality of sugar in this country. You want to tell me that a supermarket in Mumias, a very small supermarket that is not known in Mumias, is actually selling sugar in their own name?
Oh, this is what I want to understand on that matter. And I mean, it's a pertinent matter that you are pushing on.
Yes.
But as well, just like the goods, you know, at or in China Square.
In China Square.
This sugar that is packaged with the name or the branding of the supermarket is normally cheaper than the other, even
Yes.
if it's by 2 shillings.
Yes.
I mean,
yes. And those are unfair market practices.
why do you call them unfair? What is this others, doing that the supermarket is not doing or is doing, such that we would have, prices a little bit different?
Sugar that has been imported is cheaper because those who import sugar have no.
Is there any sugar that we produce in the country today, by the way?
Yes.
Enough to sustain the market? Enough to sustain the market?
Let's be slow in discussing this issue.
Okay.
One, Dan has said there is sugar that is leaving Siaya for a factory in Western.
Yes.
Why? There is sugar. There is sugar cane available for milling, but the companies in Siaya cannot be able to do that. Look at the transport cost from Siaya all the way to Kakamega or to the west. I mean, there's a lot of cost, but these people still mill sugar and put it on the shelves for sale. And here is somebody who has imported 200 containers of sugar. How much is one container of sugar in terms of quantity? That's a lot of sugar. If I import 200 containers of sugar, how am I going to let the sugar get into the market? I have to have a distributor. I have to have a retailer. In my own way of thinking, and I'm not saying it is true, these people who are importing sugar
are the ones who
are supplying supermarkets with this sugar at the expense of the local miller, at the expense of the local farmer. Because if I am importing sugar as an individual, this is going to benefit me as an individual. But if a local sugar milling company produces sugar that ends up on the shelf, this sugar is benefiting people across the line. The farmer, the distributor, the wholesaler, and the retailer. So, in matters looking at improving the economy, we must find ways. We must find ways of ensuring that a lot of input is put into the agricultural sector. Look at what is happening in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is traditionally an oil producing country. But what are they doing? They have invested billions of dollars into agriculture. And Saudi Arabia is known as a desert country. Why are they going the food way? Because they understand once our people are well fed, all these other things are extras. You understand? So countries that have gone to the extent of being superpowers have been food issues. Food issues is not any of their problems. Education is not any of their problems. Their problems is how to amass more guns, more nuclear power to show the world that we are there. But we are a country that is looking at import. I mean, we cry over China Square on things that are not produced in the country. Look at that. We are crying over prices. Same prices of goods imported from the same country. And these guys from China Square are telling us, look, whatever you are being sold at 35 shillings, I'm able to give it to you at 20 or 15. So what is the hula baloo? Because if it is indeed that Kenya is a free country where everybody is allowed to do what they want to do, then be rest assured that the president and his regime will not find it easy to ease the living cost of
the cost of living. Dan, even as you speak to this, and on the question of industrialization and manufacturing, that's what the government is committed to today, even as we speak of reviving the economy. And also, we go ahead to say it's fine. We invite these Chinese into the country, but not as retailers, better off as manufacturers. And then they're going to get into that space because that is the space that they know well, manufacturing, industrialization, and everything. So what is left with us, and what will it take for us to perhaps revive a once industrious country? As I was talking to friends of mine who were telling me of the numerous industries that we had and were functional back then, contrary to what is today.
Well, I think Stanley's captured as well, and we hope we could have a government. But here it's sort of another catch as I come up with this issue, possibly. Linda, this free market economy has got its advantages and disadvantages. And I foresee a situation where what the surface of what is beneath is this industrial action. And politicians using the local traders to express and capitalizes on their dissatisfaction.
Okay.
Stansas has mentioned something that is so intriguing. Is the China Square a battle of importers? Okay? Is it? Let's face it. Is it a battle of importers?
Yes, it is.
It is a battle of importers. And who are the importers? The big people. Okay? Who tells you that, those who are making statements and rallying people for demonstration do not have a stake on importing duty-free, products in this country?
Yeah.
And is it because that has hurted their business and that people are now turning towards, that the proprietor of the China Square is occupying that space and, becoming a potential business threat to them? That is a conspiracy theory that could be true and could stand a test of time if as things unfold. But again, even as the declaration, listen, this issue had been resolved, and as we were getting into air, we were mentioning it that probably was it an issue of giving China Square free publicity? Maybe one of the theoretical, one of the conspiracy.
It's not theoretical anymore.
It's a fact.
Oh, that stands the test of time. But also on the other end now that it has been open and then the people have flocked again.
Yeah.
Could be true. That could be a measure to give it free publicity. But then, did the row give us another difficulty in exploring both our business models and our foreign policy of how we engage? Because like I was mentioning, and you are very sensitive on the statements before we go to break. That you see, one of the declaration can even cause all the country to sit down and revise a foreign policy. It's very sad.
Yeah.
That the Chinese, regional business, people had to sit down with the government again to revise on the model of engagement because a certain quarters of these countries were touched. How robust was that engagement, Chancellors? Wait a bit. How robust was that conversation?
Right.
Because we didn't have the effects, and how I wish that even TV47 could have gave us what was discussed within the government and the delegation from China that foresee the opening of the China.
You realize that we still are waiting for the report.
I think that
what makes you think? What makes you think we're going to get this?
That could be very important for us to inform
the public.
Because it can't be China Square this time around. Tomorrow is a business establishment from the Somalis.
That could have been done. The deputy president said that they gave the traders 3 weeks to resolve this. So we can only wait perhaps for the 3 weeks. But on this agreement of the China Square,
which I think for the government, because an issue that touches on the trade, policies would be an issue that would be very holistic in nature. In that it could even address, because we foresee a situation, Linda, and let me give it a bit of, it could be manufacturing, it could be industrialized, but it can even degenerate to security issues as we speak. Because I was mentioning on a different platform, and it's good to mention that as we saw the gravitation of the xenophobia in South Africa, it began this way. When people in the government made very insensitive statements targeting some people, the locals rise up in arms and begin to target, there are these people who are denying people an opportunity to do businesses, and therefore the businesses were targeted. That is how xenophobia began in South Africa. Because I'm saying, even as we discuss this in manufacturing, in business, and hence my call to say that could there be a government discussion that holistically can be given in public in the days that have been given for us to see what is the plan about manufacturing, industrialization of those companies? What is the plan about the security issues of foreigners who are doing businesses in this country? So that tomorrow we don't see some certain specific elements in Kisumu country rising up in arms against Indians in Kisumu. We don't see certain situation in Garissa rising up in arms against some people and some, foreigners who are doing businesses in those cities as well.
Well put.
Yeah.
Stan, you wanted to say something,
You
or
know,
we
Kenyans
shift to a
are-
different, yes.
Kenyans are very resilient people, and they can suck in enough pressure and still be very calm. But when you see some of them, those who have never gone to the streets, go to the streets, you should know that there's something biting them. When you see me scratch my armpit, there is something in there that you are not seeing.
Yeah.
Dan, manufacturing in this country can be affected very effectively. The Chinese coming in this country can, because they are understood to be manufacturers of various things. And that is why the US, bigger corporations in the US have taken franchises into China. And products are in the US names, but produced in China. We, as you have said, we need to look at the foreign policy in matters related to manufacturing. Or what is it that a foreigner can come and do in this country? We saw the Minister of Trade say, whatever the Chinese are doing, Kenyans can do. But he has forgotten that Kenyans also sell njugu and mandazi in Tanzania. If you walk around the streets of Nairobi, if you have been lucky to do that, you will see boys, young boys selling crepes, selling njugu and kahawa. I mean, they are everywhere. Even in estates, they are everywhere. Do you think they are Kenyans?
They are not.
Most of them are not Kenyans. They come from our East African countries. But as Kenyans, we have given them the leverage to do that business because we understand that the East African is the East African nations is a community. We don't even need passports to go to. I don't need a passport to go to Uganda or Tanzania. So the country's leadership has to come with in a common kind of agreement that safeguards the Kenyan trader. That a Chinese who is coming in Kenya can be able to do this, and this. For example, the China Square situation. It is indeed true that the Chinese who are importing these products might be doing it at a subsidized rate, or they are getting these products at a very low price in China, and Kenyans are getting this at a slightly higher price. But can we have some kind of regulation to ensure that the Kenyan trader is safeguarded? Manufacturing can take. That's why you don't see. Do you see Indians hawking things in Nairobi? Do you see the Britons? Do you see the Americans? They're not doing it. But the Chinese are doing it. Can you imagine? And they have already taken Kenyan names. There is the Njoroge, Maina, and there is this something about Njoroge and Maina. I don't know. But they have already, because they don't care. They're outgoing. They are in the real estate. They are in the communication system. They are in somehow in government. They influence policy, whether we like it or not. So this country, Linda, has to go back to its knees. Not in terms of prayer alone. Okay. We are going on our economic knees to start afresh. We have to start afresh. We have to build on whatever that is there to pull ourselves from the economic pit we are in today. Because you look at the issues, because the topic today was political ultimatum. The issues that are being raised, if you look at the Standard, is cost of living. If traders don't have an environment to do business, teachers within the CBC system have no tools of trade. You know, the CBC system is a bedeviled system.
Kupet says,
yes.
Now that you've brought up the CBC conversation, and I mean, I don't know whether it's you, Dan, who alludes to this, or it was a guest that I had yesterday who speaks of the fact that, for a nation to be stable, education is key. And so Kupet says, you know what, the junior high school is literally flopping. How about we revise? How about we take about turn on this? And they also say, can you go back and review the activities and the proposals that have been accorded to us by the special party that was set by the president to look into this matter? And we look like we have lost it on the question of education.
Matters of education, I think it's, and what I'm always very honest that I'm still finding it difficult to understand
the CBC.
I don't know whether I'm alone in this part.
No, I echo your voice.
Everybody else is there. Okay.
Really, at this level, I really don't understand the transition yet of the junior high school, and really, if we were both technically prepared, to transition to this kind of curriculum, because then killing education. I still believe 844 was one of the best.
Was better.
Was better than the curriculum that we are having. Then because however much we would try to have a curriculum that builds people all around, as being proposed by CBC, it is quite important for us to try to understand what this is it. And the technical committee that was assigned the role by the president gave an elaborate proposals for the transition. And I think they were very strong in terms of the preparedness for transition. How hasty the ministry and the stakeholders did that, I think also brought into the challenges that we are currently facing with the transition. But then I agree, if KUPPET and all other stakeholders could call for harmonization and still go back and urge technocrats and all other these people who are well versed in academics to still look into the curriculum, I think there could be a problem that is sensed in terms of transition. I think that would be considered as well.
All right, let's read some of these comments that we have here. Judith Isiaho says, this guy is inciting people. Nobody wants to go to the streets, perhaps referring to the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Wilson Lenkume says, Tunaenda State House. Kenan Vulimu says, Judith, maybe you are well off and don't feel any economical pinch. Nobody can be incited. We go willingly. Interesting. Kenan Vulimu says, citizens don't feed on promises since campaign up to now. There needs to be something done. Daniel Mutai says, the well-off family members here in this country need to make sure you become beggars for the rest of your life. This is the reason why we are here as a country.
Dan, give me this.
Okay.
Have you read anything contrary to what we are speaking here?
Perhaps no.
And you see, that is just a sample of people you have not met. I meet people who are in government as civil servants, people who are in business as entrepreneurs, people who are searching for jobs, you understand? Common matatu operators, owners of matatu, you understand? Women who are going to work, women who are housewives. All they say is that we have a government heavily laden with promises. Even 6 months into government, they are still promising that Kenyans will buy gas at 500 shillings in 3 months. In 2 months, in 3 months. Where are we going?
But wait a minute. Boycott of select products, resistance in parliament, removal of Ruto's portraits in offices and buildings, stage sit-ins, occupation of public offices, street protests, nationwide rallies, mass action. We have been there before. Are we so much so disgruntled as a people of Kenya to a point where we can speak of a revolution?
You know why this is happening, Lynn?
And can this really yield anything, owing to the fact that we've been there before?
This is going to yield chaos.
And then chaos, how does that help us anyway? So could we confidently say then as well, this gentlemen are not, or this Azimio team is really not keen on seeing the country stable?
Listen, Linda, I gave you a prelude on how Kibaki managed Raila Odinga.
Yes.
And Kibaki was battling Raila Odinga, and at the same time, the residue of the Moi's government. But here was a wise man, calm, never spoke anything about a regime that was so autocratic. I repeat, it was so autocratic. You understand the likes of Biwott, the likes of Moi himself.
The untouchable.
They did things that were so bad for this country. But what did Kibaki do? Forget about them. You understand? Now,
what happens to the aspects of justice?
I mean, listen.
How can we forget acts of injustice?
Let me just finish this point.
Yes.
Do you know the reason why Kenyans are feeling like they are not at the right place? We are taking businesses, we are targeting businesses of the former regime. These businesses have employed Kenyans. True or not?
True.
True. Kenyans want to see a government that is talking about the cost of living. Kenyans want to see a government that is talking about employment. The government is not doing that. Let the government of the day, the president, his deputy, and the whole cabinet focus on delivery of service. If they focus on the delivery of service and stop politicking, stop answering Raila Odinga each and every morning you talk about Raila. Evening you talk about Uhuru Kenyatta. The following day you talk about Matiang'i. You are politicizing this nation. Exactly.
And these are politicians paid to politic.
So let me just finish. Azimio are hell-bent to ensure that the system does not work. That is the point of the opposition.
Okay.
We make the government or the country ungovernable. And the people will see that these people are failing. And if they fail, what is their aim? Take power. And that is what they are doing.
After this breakdown.
Okay.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
Are you looking for a college that will shape your future career? At Candy College of Beauty and Applied Sciences, we offer advanced courses with personalized attention to our students. Come and get your diploma or certificate in cosmetology, hairdressing and beauty therapy, diploma in community development and social work, or certification in catering and accommodation operation. We also offer diploma in nutrition and dietetics and many more. All of our graduates have secured employment in the job market, while others have gone into entrepreneurship. What are you waiting for? Join us today. For more information on how you can enroll, visit us at the London Beauty Building, 5th floor, Taveta Road, Nairobi, or call us on 0726 031 109 or 0784 515 606. Facebook, Candy College of Beauty and Applied Sciences, or on Instagram, Candy College of Sciences. Our January intake is ongoing. Candy College of Beauty and Applied Sciences is the cutting edge college.
Usiyakubalie maumivu ya misuli kukatiza ratiba yako. Kaluma Pain Balm ni dawa ya kusugua iliyotengenezwa kutoka kwa miche maalum ili kutuliza maumivu ya misuli. Kaluma Pain Balm. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
All right, last laps of this segment. Daniel Orogo is here with us, as well as Stan Alusiola. I mean, these are politicians paid to politic. Yes. Some of them not paid to politic, but politics is part and parcel of them. How can you even say that we can get to a point where, as a country, we overlook politics and we clearly focus on development? Don't you think that is a bit unrealistic, knowing Kenya? I mean, at least perhaps realistic because it's, in Tanzania, once the election is done, can we close this chapter and move to the next one? But our constitution does not allow for us. It gives us the latitude to continue politicking. It goes ahead to paint this, in a very good way and say we can have demonstrations peaceful for that matter. Pickets peacefully for that matter. But this that we hear here is mass action, perhaps not close to anything that you would call peaceful demonstration. I mean, what will this give us anyway?
Well, I think the way Stano had alluded to it is just to push for
chaos.
Not really push for chaos, but just to upscale the level of protest and demonstration, because the word mass action is synonymous to 2007 ICC issues. Anytime you mention the mass action, people always just think about, chaos, think about, destructions of property, think about businesses closing down. And I think opposition has mastered the act of using the word mass action to send fears, upon the shivers of the government and the establishment as well. And I agree so much with statements that were made earlier, that opposition is well placed right now to even call for large turnout of Kenyans, because like I've said, they are emotionally playing into the needs of Kenyans. And I like the illustration Stanislas is giving. What is the voice? What is the feeling of the Mwananchi, the Uber drivers? I don't know about the mkokoteni pushers. Are they also into this into this fix? Because Linda, as I was mentioning, we are suffering from politics of populism. The rise of populism in this continent as well as Kenya has actually denied us the opportunity to articulate matters in a free, fair, and democratic structures. The Constitution, of course, have given us the right to express, our feelings in democratic way, directly or indirectly. But my fear is that if we as a citizenry do not sit and have a conversation on how these spaces would allow for objectivity in our thoughts, then I think we are still staring at a situation where our neighbors will still laugh at us. Because one thing I like about these our neighbors is, however much we feel that their spaces are constrained civically, but their platforms are always platforms of free and objectivity. When you hear Tundu Lissu speaks, people listen objectively. And in those town halls, Tanzanians actually questioned, that establishment objectively. But ours in Kenya is emotional. It's like, when people say about the hustler and the mkokoteni pushers, the young people are emotionally, geared towards voting without not really questioning the aftermath, without really questioning the realistic of these policies. And unfortunately, that is where the chickens are now coming home to roost. When the traders are now staging the protest about their businesses, how did we even see that coming? How could we even have imagined that, traders in these specific areas who were, championing for this government, who are really into this government, like, this will happen immediately the Bible goes down, and now into the street protesting. It's just a position. I mean, we would expect that to happen in Kisumu, in western areas, but we are saying this is happening. But that being said and done, that's why I'm saying that, again, our opposition really is strategic enough. And you're asking whether people turn. I'm telling you, you would be very surprised when you see large numbers of people turning up in arms, because then it is pitching them. When Right Honorable Raila Odinga is speaking about, the economy has gone downtown. I mean, who doesn't feel that? Recently, the traders were expressing the same thing. When they are speaking about our elections being stolen and their whistleblowers expressing that, I mean, there are people who haven't healed from the aftermath of elections. The idea of forget and let us move on is always in this after each and every election. People have never healed in that. There are people in this country, I keep on saying, there are some television sets and some channels that are not being watched until now. Because people have not healed from the aftermath of elections. So I can tell you for sure that if these will be called, you'll be surprised that they will not be turning out to support of opposition. No. They would be turning out because they are part and parcel by what is happening up to them with what opposition is synonymous to. But again, fair enough. I am saying the clueless opposition in this country. Again. Because I have seen what you've just had to outline. And probably we would ideally differ with Stano. And by the way, we've been differing. It's not that we've been in this and agreeing on every stance. There are some forums we've differed sharply, but on opinions.
Yes.
On principles.
But we still greet.
But we still and acknowledge that, of course, we help the country by seeing the dimensions of how we differ. You see, boycott, resistance in parliament at a time when we expect that the parliament, members of parliament would caution us by one, and I've seen the supplementary budget have been, have passed through the parliament, have been signed by, I've been taken to the head of state to sign.
Yeah.
But here, what are other issues that Kenyans in parliament, even through the quasi-judicial committees, would expedite? We can't have a nation where parliamentarians would be bribed to cross over and support the government. The state and our integrity in the members of parliament must not be bought.
Right.
Let us also say this here bold and loud. And secondly, I think we must also quote the regime, but also fault the opposition. Why would we have the opposition members of parliament going in bed with the government? What is it that the opposition has not provided for the members of parliament? Is opposition lacking an engagement policy in the both houses? That probably could be. Is opposition lacking in strategies of government in waiting? That could be. And that is why probably the opposition members of parliament are crossing over. So I think it's important for us, removals of portraits. I don't know how this visible it is. Is it constitutional? I doubt whether the portrait of the president is constitutionally mandated to be the house. But these measures, how is it
really going
cautioning common mananchi from the effects of what we are seeing right now?
Let's talk about what Stan says, yeah? And what basically everybody has said. Can we overlook what the previous regimes did and focus on what needs to be done? That is in order. That perhaps is basically what we need to do as a nation. But equally done, all these are questions of justice. And while we say the wheels of justice will grind slow, don't you want the current regime to go back and see what is this that was done wrong during the Uhuru times, especially when it's very clear that some activities were conducted, in ways that were not in order? I mean, don't you think you want to go and understand this Nyakango story deeper and see whether indeed that there are monies that were released, in a way that was not legal, in a way that was not proper? Don't you think it is necessary to go and just find some more on what the CS then for Treasury would have to say? Because clearly there is a problem. And don't you think it worries you that we have carried some of these individuals that were part and parcel of that regime to the current regime, holding the very same offices, individuals that agree to the fact that they were compromised at some point, if not coerced?
Linda, when I was here the first time, we were speaking about the 100 days. Oh, no, it was about the state of the nation. And I found it very difficult to delink Kenya Kwanza government from the Jubilee government, because these are the same faces. President Ruto was in the other government. The Minister of Defense was in the other government. The Minister for Transport and Roads, you see, Mithika Linturi, all these people were in the former Jubilee government. And speaking about Dr. Nyakango, yeah. From her statement, that 15 billion was released 2 days. Is it 2 weeks or 2 days to the election?
Under duress.
Under duress. It has elicited serious reactions. One, people within the Kenya Kwanza government, of which she thought she's helping, are asking for her ouster. Because why did she approve money knowing very well that the government was living?
She said she was under duress.
Under duress.
Yeah. Then the same as the DPP. My question is, at some point in time.
My question is this. Is she not under duress to say that? She must be under duress also to come and say this. So, having said that, on the issue, let's forget about... I'm always taking you back to Kibaki. Kibaki received a government that was in tatters. It had all manner of trash. But how did he do it? He did it silently. If you have monies that you have stolen, you return silently. If you have a building that you have taken from the public and you have privatized it, take it silently without targeting an individual. You remember the issue of the KICC? It was taken in a very cool manner.
My question exactly, why should it be cool? By the time you were taking it, you were not.
You have to lower the political temperatures of the nation. Okay. Okay? In as much as you want to put people on check, you have to also look at balancing the nation.
Yes.
Because if you are going to prick the people towards making, in terms of making serious political statements, there are people who are, as Dan has said it, there are people who are politically disgruntled. And I was here one day and I told you, half of Kenyans, those who voted for Azimio, do not watch news anymore. Yeah. So, if they are not, what kind of anger do they have that if it is news time, they will switch to Facebook
and watch cartoons?
Yes, and watch cartoons.
They tell me right to my face. Mimi hata sitaki kuona news tena.
Yeah.
And you wonder.
So let me remind you something that is happening in the Middle East. I believe Turkey is in Europe, but it's more of a Middle East country. They were hit by a very bad earthquake. Oblivious of that, health workers, doctors, nurses, and those in the health fraternity are protesting for better wages. Imagine a country that is facing a national catastrophe, but you have professional people going to the streets asking for better working conditions in terms of remuneration. Now, how about a country where half of the population is jobless? Those who are in jobs, their payment is, their salary is not even doing anything to fix their problems. Surely, Linda, mass action is not the best for this country. But if there is need for mass action that will make these things work, and not in terms of taking over power, I would oppose that because people are really going to lose lives. But mass action to ensure that the government is put to responsibility. The government can come up with measures to ensure that people are employed, that people are well fed, that people are well educated. Because in Operation Linda Ugatuzi, we have now gone an extra notch higher. Operation Linda Ugatuzi is for Ugatuzi.
Yeah.
Strengthening of the devolution. Because if we strengthen devolution, if we allow our counties through their their departments to get direct foreign injection regularized by the Ministry of Treasury, we will have development at county level. Because some things are domiciled in counties that do not affect the whole national spectrum. If we allow Operation Linda Jikoni, Operation Linda Jikoni is for food security. If we have counties that are dealing, like for example, Kenya was, in my small years, we used to live in Eldoret. And in Eldoret, when there was no food, you could cook wheat, boil wheat, and eat it. Where is the wheat in Eldoret?
Where is it?
Where is the wheat in Uasin Gishu? It is not there. What is happening to the wheat sector? We are importing wheat when wheat was locally produced in extra. You understand? So Operation Linda Ugatuzi, if Kisumu is known for fish, let us protect our fish in Kisumu. If Uasin Gishu is known for wheat and maize production, let us protect Uasin Gishu and give them that autonomous responsibility to ensure that they are feeding the nation in terms of producing maize. You understand? If our coastal regions are known to bring, and national parks are known to bring foreign direct investment or foreign currency, let us protect our tourism sector. You understand? The Marians are known to do their Mira thing.
Yes.
Let us invest, because in as much as we have we fight Chang'aa, Sindio, and the other beverages, we have allowed this group to grow. Let us make sure that it is flourishing. So that is Operation Linda Ugatuzi. In the health sector, let us ensure that our doctors are employed, our nurses are employed, You understand? Paramedics are employed and well remunerated. Even in terms of promotion. Can I surprise you, Dan? That doctors are now being employed at county level. That if you are from Garissa, you cannot get a job in Kakamega. That if you are from Meru, you cannot get a job in Taita Taveta. That is nonsense, you understand? And that is why we are rooting for the formation of the Health Service Commission. Just like the TSC, the PSC. PSC has so many feelings.
Is that not good for them?
The medics have really cried foul about the whole system of devolution.
Yes.
They say they want a commission. They say they want it back to.
Yes.
Because it looks like the governors as well in their own special way.
I mean,
listen.
That should be the essence of devolution.
You see, and anyway, that was proposed in the BBI as well. For all that to happen. And Stano, if I cut you short, sorry, because I was going to differ a little bit on the recovery of stolen assets from the public. Linda, I think we are a nation of postponement of truth. And we have postponed truth, and I don't know how long we're going to postpone it again. If we would have implemented and interrogate the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation report.
Yes, the Kriegler report.
The Kriegler reports, and so many reports that, points towards a nation where there is a greed in crude accumulation of wealth at the expenses that would bring this country to its economic knees, like Stano has just mentioned. People would be surprised. And I think also because as a nation, Kenyans have not understand what 15 billion means, the value. We've not come into terms that an institution, and Stano, if you are litigating these issues, how I wish that we would champion for an institution that would publicly educate people on public finance. That if we talk about 300 million, what is the value of that in camels? What is the value of that in hospitals? What is the value of that in cows? What is the value of that in tractors and fertilizers? What is the value? So that Kenyans would begin to know that if they hear someone has stolen 300 million, they know that this particular individual has snatched us away some clinic down here, has snatched us away some educational facilities, has snatched away some very good dams like Aurora and Aurora and those dams.
Kimwarer. You must know the names.
If that is where we can be as a nation,
yes,
then we can have a mass protest that is a political.
Yes.
That the country and like fishmongers and people who are processing pineapples in Thika would rise up in arms without not receiving statements from the ministries of these people in this, because they know the value of the money they are losing.
They're losing, yeah.
But we as a nation, where when we talk about 15 billion being wired over text messages and WhatsApp messages without approval, then people just find it's okay. As long as is Ukur Yatani, who is a party leader of UPIA, who is a kingpin of Marsabit or some areas, right?
Who tells us it was about security, and you ask yourself 15 billion
if we can
security,
still,
5 days to the election.
If you can still accompany some people who've been mentioned in NYS scandal and accompany them to make statements at the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, and we still vote them, then I think we are not. That's why I keep on saying stanceless. Even at the work we do in civil rights, we are still lagging behind because we still have a public and a citizenry which is a danger to themselves by the fact that they vote in emotions and populism. And when the chicken come home to roost, they're asking, what mistake do we always make in each and every election? And there is hence confusion of whether are we in government Or are we turning up to support opposition? And the value of our politics is downgraded. I think I'm painstakingly taken aback by the citizenry of this country as well.
All right. Well, a lot of physical education and knowledge that needs to be disseminated for purposes of us being objective in some of these, actions that we take. Gentlemen, time is moving very fast. Your last laps or your last sentiments as we come to a close. There's still so much that we would have talked about, but yes, let us shelve this for another day.
Yeah, Dan, are you trying to blame the Kenyan for every Kenyan?
Is the Kenyan not to be blamed anyway? Are they not the voters?
Yeah,
I am.
One, yes. I want to take an example, and I'm not personally attacking anybody. We have had a man in this country in the name of Okiya Omtata. He has been a defender of sorts. He went to the people of Busia who voted him as senator in our great Senate of this country. And I expected him, once he gets into the Senate, that he will take activism to the Senate and ensure that some of the policies that are being made at Senate level affect the country positively.
He's trying.
Yeah, he's trying.
But we all expected Muhaji Jopevu to as well do something in there. But yes.
He could have lost had he not have ODM.
Yes.
So Kenyans would not have
for real, yeah?
Yes. So, Dan, I personally and you have seen us in 2007. It was post-election, just after post-election violence. And as youthful people by then, because those is almost how many years ago? 13 years?
13 years.
We went to the K estates. We call them the K estates. Kibra, Kawangware, Korogosho, Madare, all those areas. And we were telling people, look, we want peace. Because without peace, you will not be able to do business. Without peace, you will not be able to eat. Your children will not be able to go to school. But what came after our preaching of peace? A government came in place that looked at the issues. You understand? But in 2022, we came to the vote, we made the vote, went home. Despite whatever that was taking place, guys were calm. But now, instead of the government working, they are bringing in politics again. They are empowering the opposition. You understand?
Right.
So my last statement to the regime, to the administration, work for the people. In as much as we have leverage to do politics, work for the people. Look at the issues that are bedeviling the people of this nation. The president, Mr. President, form an economic task force. The likes of David Ndii, who are known to be serious economists.
I don't know how serious, because I've had people
I just said who are known to be.
Okay.
You understand? So I don't know whether
or at least they claim to be whoever.
They claim to
we
be.
do not know.
And Professor Ogola was here or on another station. He said, I can claim to be a professor, but in real sense, I am not a professor. The likes of Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, who has always been known to be a real economic guru, come up with strategies to salvage the Kenyan economy from where it is today. Other than doing that, be rest assured that every Kenyan, whether at work, whether in business, whether in school, whether on the market, on the street, and everywhere, they will support Mheshimiwa Raila's Odinga clarion call for mass action. And it's going to be chaos, I'm telling you.
God forbid. God forbid. We do not want to get it to that level. Dan?
I think mine is to take a departure a little bit from what Chancellor says, because he's recounted on the experiences of engaging the citizens on the informal settlements with civic education, and just trying to educate them on the choices that they make the political consequences later. I have, however, come to realize that however much we empower the citizenry, if we do not restructure, and not deal with a corrupt political system that enable the leaders to ascend into these political positions, then the citizens do not have much apart from directly, holding their leaders to account. And this has been proven because the dissatisfaction with the members who are elected to represent the citizens in the legislature, in public service, are there through a corrupt means of that system, and therefore, sorry, we wouldn't expect that they deliver if in that kind of system. And hence we are calling for a revision of this system. As the opposition are calling for mass protests to relook into the selection panel of IEBC. I mean, let us not take it as citizens as politicking, but how I wish that it could be a publicly consulted venture where citizens relook into the appointment, relook into the structural issues that are affecting the independency of the commission and other commissions. Even relook into the performances of the Director of Public Prosecution, Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. Look into the performance of independent offices and commissions. I think if we go that way, then citizens will be at the center of these changes. And that is how they can hold both opposition and the government if they own this process, as Stanzas is saying. But if we are seeing people who are emotionally driven into the side of the government, into the side of the opposition, few months after election, then I think we are still losing and losing more. That then we are not able to have a comprehensive reform into our governance system. And therefore I think it's important that we relook into the performance, relook into public participation. Why is it quiet that people are now quiet? The IEBC selection panel has gone quiet again. And then I think the media now will again inform us that this is the step. And the citizens will be questioning why are they not involved in the processes right now. So I think it's proactiveness into us as citizenry and as young people.
And I think this business should not be left for the likes of Baba. Baba can only do his part. But it is incumbent upon us as citizens to be alert. But we have done well in terms of understanding the activities of politics, and I think bit by bit we shall be there. Last speaker of the day, the coordinator, Democracy Moves of Africa, Dan Orogo. Thank you so much for speaking to us. And Stan Alusiola, at least Dan has gotten me to get your name proper. Stanislaus.
Yes. This is an ex-Soviet name.
Stanislaus.
Stanislaus
Alusiola. It's a tongue twister, Dan. Do you think so? But here we are, civil rights activist. Thank you so much for speaking to us in absence. That is